Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Hussein Hareedy, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ambassador.
Hello, good afternoon, madam.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this afternoon.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Now, of course, Egyptians are commemorating the 47th anniversary of the 6th of October victory, still with the same really enthusiasm and pride as throughout the years. Could you tell us a bit about this October War victory, how the decision was taken at the time by the late President, of course, Sadat, after years of preparation since the 1967 war?
Of course, the October 6th is a memorable day in contemporary Egyptian history.
Indeed.
It came after 6 years. The October War happened after 6 years of the 1967 June war, when Israel occupied Sinai, the Golan Heights, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and some parts of southern Lebanon.
Yes.
And in November 1967, the United Nations Security Council resolution of the United Nations had adopted the well-known Security Council resolution 242, which in the preamble stated the non-acquisition of territories by force, and it called for negotiations and withdrawal from occupied territories and peace. And from the day that resolution had been adopted until 1970, August 1970, the United Nations Special Envoy, Dr. Gunnar Yarek, failed to implement this resolution 242. And then we accepted, late President Nasser accepted the Rogers Plan, the ceasefire between Egypt and Israel. And of course, he passed away in September 1970. And when President Sadat came to power, he tried to find a peaceful way out. But he got the message from the Americans, particularly Mr. Henry Kissinger, that as long as the Arabs are defeated side, they are not in a position to dictate terms. So I guess it was a must for Egypt and for Syria to wage a war of liberation. And that's what happened on October 6, 1973.
Indeed.
Of course, I don't want to go into military details. I don't want to, of course, to speak about the Bar-Lev line. And suffice it to say that one of the former chiefs of staff of the Israeli army said before October 6, 1973, that even a nuclear bomb would never be able to destroy the Bar-Lev line. And but what happened on October 6, 1973 is that the Egyptian army at the time successfully crossed the Suez Canal, which has been considered from a military point of view one of the major obstacles, river obstacles in military history. It was because the Suez Canal as a water barrier extends to 165 kilometers from north to south. And then, of course, on the other side of the Suez Canal, on the eastern bank, there were what you called at the time the strong points, very fortified, the Israeli fortifications from north, Port Said, to south of the Suez Canal in Suez. So, of course, the crossing of the canal was in itself a strategic victory, a military defeat, And 1 year later, in October 1974, the army, the Egyptian army, organized an international seminar on the lessons learned, the military lessons
Yes.
learned in the October War. And I remember attending this seminar, and experts from across the world came, from the United States, from Europe, from the Arab world, from Asia, from Africa. And of course, they in this seminar, there was a consensus on 2 points.
Yes, actually, Mr. Ambassador, this leads me to my next question. The Egyptian greatest weapon at the time were the Egyptian soldiers who really, as you said, carried out unprecedented maneuvers during this war. And also, this was a great demonstration of solidarity amongst Arab nations. Could you please tell us a bit about the important factor of this solidarity at the time?
Of course, Egypt, as I said, did not wage this war on its own or by itself.
Yes.
Of course, you went to the war with Syria. In Egypt, it was the second and the third armies, and in Syria, it was the first army.
Yes.
And of course, Arab countries were represented by military units from Morocco, Algeria, from the Gulf countries, from Iraq, from just name it.
Yes.
So, and then Algeria, for example, sent us in 1973 direct military assistance. So it was really the peak of Arab solidarity, this October War of 1973. And when we are celebrating the October War of 1973, we should also be celebrating Arab solidarity at its best. And we should also state, we should never forget that we crossed the canal in coordination with the Syrian army.
Absolutely.
That's something that I always make a point of
shed light on. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Your Excellency, Ambassador Hussein Hareedy, former Assistant to Foreign Minister. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us and for your insight on today's edition. And of course, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up today's edition of our program, Africa Today. My name is Angie Mehermini. Thanks for watching.